Hi, my name is David Combs, and I'm the author of a book about judgment. Specifically, the judgments that we have of our friends, neighbors, colleagues, the random strangers we come across in a given day, and how sometimes our judgments can be wildly misguided. This book explores how we think about other people and the reasons for their behavior. Research tells us that very often when we see a person whose behavior we don't approve of, we tend to assume the worst, that their behavior is a result of some deep character flaw or something very wrong about the person. But decades of psychological research tells us that in many cases, the behavior of other people is actually driven by outside forces and structures that are very often unseen and invisible to outside observers like you and me. As a result of this, from time to time, we sometimes get angry at a person for their negative behavior and we judge them. Sometimes we lash out at them, all the while not realizing their behavior was actually driven by forces unseen. I decided to write this book because I believe these misperceptions can cause a tremendous amount of pain in the world, and I wanted to try to find a way to help us do better. This book contains stories from people whose behavior we can rightly judge as pretty terrible sometimes. People such as white supremacists, religious extremists, violent gang members, people from corporate America. All of the individuals in the stories that I talk about, their behavior is rightly pretty appalling, pretty terrible. But I would argue in many of the cases that I examined, their behavior is actually a result of tremendous and invisible social forces, and not necessarily the result of a deeply flawed character. One of the stories I love most in the book is a short one. It's about a mother who is teaching her daughter how to drive a stick shift. The girl struggled with the stick shift as I did when I was first learning. At a stoplight, she stalled the car, and a man in a car behind them got out and came to the window and started screaming at her. Thankfully, the mother was able to explain that the girl was just learning to drive and the man thankfully backed off. The thing is, what he didn't know was that the girl had an invisible social force in her mind that was contributing to her struggles. Her father had been killed in a car crash recently and she was terrified of learning how to drive. The man's judgment of the people in the car in front of him were that these are terrible drivers, jerks, or worse. Yet he never could have seen the invisible social forces that were in play in the girl's mind in the car in front of him. That poor judgment nearly caused him to make a mistake that could have landed him in prison or worse. We all make mistakes like this. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're catastrophic, but they're all a result of the way our minds are wired to see people as flawed and to overlook situations. My hope for this book is that it will help readers come to understand how powerful social situations are in shaping our behavior. Once we start to see how powerful situations are, it becomes a lot more difficult to harshly judge others. You'll enjoy this book if you're interested in the drivers of human behavior, if you're interested in the web of complex factors that shapes our lives and our behaviors every single day, and if you're interested in learning that sometimes changing behavior is often more about changing situations than argumentation or judgment. My name is David Combs, and I'm the author of Judge Not: How Invisible Situations Shape Our World.